This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories, and welcome to my review of Stranger Things 2 and Stranger Things 3, also known as the second and third season of Stranger Things. That is what the seasons are called. And with Stranger Things 4 dropping its first half of the season next week, I believe. Should be next week with Kenobi. I am excited to finish up reviewing it. This was originally all going to be one video. I did not have the time to record that, so hopefully I get 2 and 3 into it. And the only reason you'd be hearing this is if 2 and 3 are in both, because I'd have to change the intro to include just 2 if I do not have the time to record it for both. But with me just going on like this, let's start with my review of Stranger Things 2, and then I'll go into Stranger Things 3. Stranger Things 2 is a good season, although looking at the 3 seasons, I'd say it's probably my least favorite of the 3. It is still good, but of the 3, I think it is definitely the weakest. Although it's not saying much because this is an amazing show overall, and I think they've done a really good job with it. And starting off with just the basics of the season, which I'll be looking at. I think the basics of the season were really good. We have a good setup. And again, there is interesting different teams that begin to investigate into this. And although it isn't my favorite season, I still think they do a really good job having everyone together, going with the storyline of Will trying to be possessed by the Mind Flayer, and setting up much more to go on into the future. I definitely really enjoyed this season, even though, as I said, my least favorite season of the 3. And again, I'll be looking at this instead of looking at it by the episodes. I will instead look at this by the storylines, and with it, I will go again, probably doesn't matter of importance, which really means that I will be taking a look at the storyline with Will, Mike, Joyce, and a few of the other characters, with Hopper also being involved in it, and Bob, although they are, not as major, and one of them is killed off. But before I go fully into that, I will go into the setup for it, which is, the kind of the normal part, which is beginning the season off. And with it, we get to see everyone just together being friends. We can see a lot of their relationships and how things have changed. We get to look at them on Halloween and the mall dressed up as Ghostbusters, which is even more funny looking back with one of the actors being in the newest Ghostbusters movie, which is something that is, a lot of people would have noticed, but has always been a pretty funny thing. And yeah, with this, I think that just having the setup of how good of friends they are, I definitely enjoy that, and to see how things have both changed them and how they have also not changed as much, with them still being close friends and wanting to look at, everything together. This is a really fun and interesting way to start up. We also get the introduction of the character of Max, but I will be looking at her later on in the full-on storyline with her and the other guys. But with it, looking at just this startup, it is interesting to see the Mind Flayer begin to mess with Will, and eventually it does take him pretty early on after Bob gives advice to stand up to his nightmares. That will end it, although he doesn't know he is being haunted by an actual demon and just thinks that he is being haunted by bad dreams from when he went missing. And that really changes things and does put him in danger, although Bob does not know that. Yeah, it gets interesting, and with it, Mike is in one scene with Max, and that does lead to Eleven thinking that he has moved on to another person, although, of course, that is wrong, and he still wants to be with her and really misses her. That was an interesting thing to look at and see how things have really changed in this. Yeah, I am really excited to with this, and I think the storyline is interesting. And as things change, we get to see the main storyline progress. And I'll mainly be going over this until they all, reunite together towards the end of the season, like I did in the previous video. And with the main storyline of the season, it focuses on Will, Mike, Joyce, and Hopper, and eventually Bob comes into it too. And that they are trying to investigate into different things as things are being crazy once again in Hawkins. Hopper does go on to his own parts of his side quest, and he does cut in and out with them. So I'll just talk about his sort of separate storyline, also looking into the different things with the fields with this, since it does tie in. And with this main storyline, it is definitely the most interesting one of the season, as Mike is trying to be with his friend who has been possessed by the Mind Flayer, and he's starting to figure out that the Mind Flayer is using him to spy on everyone. We also have Hopper investigating into the rotting pumpkins and other crops around the farms, and realizes that the portal has actually been digging down and creating tunnels under the town of Hawkins. Well, not exactly town of Hawkins yet, it's heading towards them. And is mainly under the farmland right now. And things are getting even more crazy as they're investigating into this. And he does go down, sent by Will, and starting to figure things out. Once they do realize he's in danger, they go and try to save him, getting Bob to help, and Bob starts to realize what's happening as he is told as they go and try to save Hopper. Although they are successful, things are getting pretty bad when they try to go into a controlled burn to go and reduce this, but it is extremely harmful to Will, harming him and having him have a pretty violent reaction, like he is being burned alive also. Although he has no physical scars, he is attached through a hive mind to the Mind Flayer, and that makes things pretty intense. As they go back to the lab, they are trying to resolve all the problems, and we see that the doctor who has replaced Brenner from season 1 is a lot more compassionate and sympathetic and way more willing to work with them. He is not as evil as them, and he's not trying to cover everything up perfectly. He is covering things up, but doesn't want to be going and trying to kill anyone, and is a lot more sympathetic, not wanting to hurt people like Will and trying to protect them. He is a really interesting and different character than Brenner, but it is really interesting to see him and how he was actually able to survive and help the characters at the end of the season, although I will be going back to that. And continuing just with this, there is just so many other crazy things as when Will is possessed by the Mind Flayer and sends a bunch of the people from Hawkins' lab into a trap where they get massacred by the Demodogs. And once the Demodogs do show up, they go and begin to become a pretty major threat. And with them being so dangerous, they go and begin to massacre everyone inside of Hawkins' lab. Although most of our main characters, besides Bob, that are inside the lab are able to escape, they do it just barely, and this escape gets pretty close when they are just barely able to make it out as Joyce watches as Bob is killed by one of the Demodogs. And with this, we also have the chief scientist being left alive inside of Hawkins, since he did go and direct them out. And with this, that is tackled later in the season. But this is the point where everyone goes and reunites and goes into the main storyline, so I'll take a look at the other storylines that are tackled within this. And the first one I'll take a look at is the one with the rest of the kids, which I'd say is the next most major one, followed by the storyline between Nancy and Jonathan. And finally, I'll take a look at the storyline with Eleven, which only takes up one episode mainly, which is the one in between the one with the monsters and everything, with the Demodogs attacking and before they escape. So I'll take a look at them in that order. And looking at the first storyline, this one is also two storylines that combine into one, with the first one being Lucas wanting to reveal everything that has happened with Max, and he does, although she doesn't believe him originally, and thinks that he's just making a joke. He's able to eventually convince her as he takes her into the storyline that is involved with Dustin and Steve. And with this one, we get to see the two of them trying to take down Dart, who is a baby Demogorgon that turns into a Demodog that Dustin discovers. And with that, it is really interesting to see how they are together and how the two of them become good friends. In this, it is a fun storyline, and you look at as they all go together and are trying to hunt down Dart, who they have realized now is a baby Demogorgon, but it's currently a Demodog, which is basically just the name given to the younger version of a Demogorgon, since they are acting more like a dog than the full-on Demogorgon. And with it, it is really interesting to see as they go and hunt down the Demodog, and eventually in trying to capture Dart, they realize that there's a massive army, which goes away into the other storyline to go and enact the trap with it, and things are again really crazy as they go and try to rescue everyone. Arriving at the gate, they have to wait really until the power is turned on by the people inside of Hawkins, the group that I've already previously talked about, since the power originally went out, and they just had to wait for it to be turned back on before they could open the gate. And once it's back on, they are able to go and reunite with everyone else. Where I will stop this for now and go take a look at the other two storylines. Looking at the first one of these last two, it is the one between Nancy and Jonathan. And honestly, I kind of made a mistake when I was recording. I accidentally called her the wrong name, and I think I edited it all out, but I might have missed something, so I am sorry if that does make it in. But so I am really enjoy this one, and I just kind of, forgot the name and realized when I was trying to check what the name of Murray was, because couldn't remember that one off the top of my head. So yeah, and with this, I think this storyline is interesting because with it we see how Nancy is just really regretting not being able to go and tell Barb's parents what happened to her since Hawkins Lab is covering this all up. So after she breaks up with Steve because she just can't take, lying anymore, although he is fine with it, she goes and works with Jonathan to go and expose Hawkins Lab. And after acting like they were trying to tell Barb's mother what's going on, they are able to record what is going on in Hawkins Lab and go to Murray to go and expose all this, with Murray being both a journalist and kind of a conspiracy theorist. And with this, they go and have things revealed and basically tell him what's going on. Although he does believe them, he knows that the general public won't. So he goes and leaks the story, and instead of it being a monsters and portals and everything, that it is a chemical what like research, and that it's some of it leaked and led to the death of Barb and a few other people, and that is a lot more believable. I definitely get it because I think that if you heard on the news that there was a bunch of monsters coming out of a portal created by the government, you wouldn't be believing that. But hearing that there was a radiation leak and that led to the death of some people and it was covered up by the government, that's a lot more believable. Because although we do know this is all true, if you told someone this and acted like it was real, no one would believe you. Yeah, with that, I think that they handled that storyline really well as they return. They go and just work with everyone else and try and help him escape from Hawkins' lab. The final storyline in this is the 11 storyline, which is, sort of just set up over a few short scenes in a few episodes, and then has an entire episode dedicated to what she is doing. And with this, she just eventually realizes, after living with Hopper, that he has been lying to her, and as Hopper is busy with the other events that happen in the season with him, he doesn't even get a chance to go home. And she goes and begins to investigate into herself, realizing that her mother is alive, and goes to visit her. This leads her to go and reunite with her mother, although she does realize her mother's mind has been destroyed by the people at Hawkins Lab. And this leads to her going and meeting up with another one of the people that were experimented on. I believe it was 9. I can't remember what the number was, but I know that she had hallucination powers, making people see things. And with it, 11 eventually realizes that although it is bad what happened to her, that she can't live the criminal lifestyle that they live and wants to go back to her friends and help them. And this leads us to the three storyline, well, the multiple storylines coming together, where at first they go and I manage to escape from Hawkins' lab. At this point, 11 is still on her way back, so she cannot help them yet. And with this, they go and are trying to figure out what the Mind Flayer knows and interrogate him inside of the shed behind Will's house. And with this, they try to get information out of him. He taps in Morse code to let them know that they need to close the gate. And with this, although he does give them what they need, the phone rings and he realizes where he is, and the Mind Flayer uses this to go and send an army of Demodogs. But with this, they are rescued by Eleven, who returns. And since not the entire army of Demodogs were sent, they do go and make a plan to close the gate. Hopper is going to go with 11 to close the gate. At the same time, Joyce is going to go with Jonathan and Nancy to go and burn out the Mind Flayer from Will. And Steve is left to watch the kids who want to go and create a distraction so the Demodogs are drawn away. Although Steve doesn't want to do this, Max's brother does show up and beats up Steve, trying to get his sister back because of how abusive his father is, and he just wants to please him so he could leave him alone. And with this, he is eventually beat up and beat by his sister as she tells him to leave her and her friends alone. And that results in storyline with him for now, although he does come back in the next season. And with this, there's a few more major things that happen. We get to see just some really crazy things. And looking at it, it is interesting to see there is the storyline with them going and creating a fire inside of the tunnels to go and distract the Mind Flayer and send the Demodogs after them. And with the next part, things get even crazier as the Mind Flayer is burned out of Will, although the spirit does escape. And finally, 11 is able to close the portal with the exposing of what Hawkenstead has been up to. As I mentioned before, not fully being exposed, coming out, with peace given to Barbara's family, and everything else being pretty well wrapped up, with 11 being allowed to return into the normal world and live out her life, with everything being given up. And we get to see the beginning of relationships between Wolf, Lucas, and Max, and between 11 and Mike. Yeah, with this, it's all a really nice way to end the season, and I really did enjoy it. I think that there's a lot more crazy stuff that happens, and this season is really good. Yeah, now I'm going to move on to Stranger Things 3 because I have no idea how much more time I have to record, and this video is already at nearly 25 minutes, although it's just under 24 minutes, but yeah, this is going to be a long video. Stranger Things 3 is my second favorite season. Personally, my favorite season, as you can guess, is Stranger Things, the first season. Yeah, currently I really love the season, and it is my second favorite. This one again has a different group of characters teaming up, and I'll take a look at those. And so that is my second favorite season, and let's go straight into these storylines. And I'll be, of course, looking at it once again in terms of size of the biggest storylines to the smallest one, and I will be first talking about the storyline that follows basically all the kids besides Dustin looking into the return of the Mind Flayer. The second storyline I'll be looking at is the one between Joyce, Hopper, Murray, and the Russian scientist, with them going and looking into what's going on with the Russian lab. And then finally, of the storylines, I will be looking into Dustin, Robin, and Steve looking into the lab, and also the storyline of Nancy and Jonathan looking into the little things, but that will tie into the bigger storyline of the other kids since they unite with them and that pretty early on. So just to mention that short storyline, we have someone with Nancy and Jonathan working for the paper and them realizing something odd is going on. One of the residents tells them about how she has seen her rats trying to eat her fertilizer. Well, not her rats, the rats. And with it, although Nancy wants to look at it, and Jonathan thinks they probably shouldn't. And with this, they do get fired after Nancy does try to look more into it and goes to the woman's house and sees her trying to eat fertilizer, with her being taken over by the Mind Flayer. But this is really where it ends because about here is where they go and unite with everyone else after realizing this is connected to the Upside Down and everything with the Mind Flayer. Looking at this is the main storyline of the season where our different kids and then soon Nancy and Jonathan begin to realize that the Mind Flayer is back. The Mind Flayer has infected many people, including Billy, who is Max's sister, since I didn't mention his name earlier in the video. We also get to see many other crazy things that happen in it. We get to see as they try and see if he is the one being possessed by the Mind Flayer, and quickly realize that many people have been possessed, and they are attacked in the hospital by the Mind Flayer's minions. With this, they do barely manage to escape, and is mainly saved by Eleven's powers. Although she does have a cut where part of the. Actually, that does happen later. So they get go and try to hide away where they are attacked by the Mind Flayer, who has been released and is going after them. With this, the Mind Flayer is pretty devastating, destroying Hopper's cabin, and with it, they do manage to escape, although Eleven does suffer an injury where a small part of the Mind Flayer gets into her, and with this, they are forced to go on to the run, and with it, they are contacted by Dustin at this point, which is the part where they start to go together. So I'll actually look at that storyline next, since that's where the two do combine. Although I did say I was going to talk about the Hopper storyline with Joyce and everything. I think this one's better to look at since they do combine here before ultimately all combining against Darkcourt. And with this, oh, I almost forgot with this one that we also get to see Lucas's sister in this, since as I think of all the characters, she is probably the most forgettable of the main ones. Although I still do like her as a character. She definitely was a lot more forgettable compared to everyone else. And this storyline follows Dustin accidentally going when he's going to go and talk to his girlfriend he met at camp. He accidentally intercepts a Russian communication and becoming friends with Steve in the last season, goes to his work at the ice cream shop where him and Steve are trying to discover what's going on, but they don't really aren't able to figure it out until Robin comes in and knowing some Russian she's able to translate everything and tell them what is going on. With this, we get to see as their storyline continues, they learn where the Russians are, what they're planning to do, sort of, and that they have a secret place where they're bringing in stuff. And knowing the only way to get there is through the vents. None of them can fit through, and they go to Erica for help since she's been a frequent customer at Scoops Ahoy and is the only one small enough to be able to fit through the vents that they also can trust since she is the sister of Lucas and is probably the most trustworthy person they could get to go through the vents, and she does go through and lets them in, although they are sent to the Russian lab that is built underneath the Starcourt Mall, and with this they begin to realize that they are trying to open the portal into the Upside Down and have forced it open. And with this, Steve and Robin are captured and tortured by the Russians, and this leads to Dustin and Erica having a chance to escape, but they do go back and save them. We have a pretty funny scene where Steve and Robin have been drugged, and with this, they are, acting pretty crazy, not really knowing what to do, and are watching Back to the Future. And with this, it is a pretty funny scene as Dustin tries to contact them, telling him to go to the Starcourt Mall. And with this, they are still being tracked down by the Russians. And this leads to Eleven coming in to save them with the rest of them, but it's mainly Eleven who saves them from the Russians. And looking at the final major storyline of this, we have the storyline with Hopper, Joyce, Murray, and the Russian scientist. And I don't really remember the guy's name. I think it was Alexei, but I might just be thinking of another Russian character since, yeah, I don't really remember his name. I'm pretty sure it was Alexei, but I'll just go with Russian scientist just in case I was wrong. And with this, we have the two of them investigating into what is going on, the suspicious stuff going on with the mayor and the magnets falling off of the fridge and in many other places, where Joy starts to realize that there's something weird going on in a giant machine, thinking that someone has tried to reopen the portal to the Upside Down. It turns out she is right, and they haven't opened it at Hawkins' lab. And although they don't know it yet, it has been opened under the Starcourt Mall. And with this, they begin to investigate into this, interrogating the mayor, who has been paid off by the Russians. And with this, things are being pretty crazy as they are hunted down by a Russian hit squad who is tracking them down as they try to investigate into this. They do find the Russian scientist and take him with them and go to Murray since he is the only person that Hopper knows that does speak Russian and will be able to get the information out of him. And once they go to him, he does manage to help. And there's a really funny scene where I honestly really love it where Hopper goes and gives him the keys and says that he could go. And he says that he's not going to go because he realizes that if he goes back, they're going to kill him and they are his best chance at being able to live. And even though everyone doubts him, he goes out and shows that he hasn't left and knows that he's going to have to stay with them. And this is just a really funny scene, one that I really enjoyed. I think they did a great job with. And with this, they begin to realize more and more as they learn about the portal being reopened, and they do call the US government to help with Hopper using his a secret code that he was given just in case anything has returned. But of course, the government shows up way too late, and they go back to help their kids since they realize they're in danger. With this, they're able to go and are inside of a giant festival as they look around, but the Russians do catch up with them, with the mayor informing them, and this leads to a pretty great fight between Hopper and the Russian hit squad, where he's able to escape. Although the Russian scientist is killed, he does give them enough information to go and take on everyone, and they all go and converge on Starcourt Mall, where both the Russians are and the Mind Flayer is heading. And at this final point in the season, they again split off into smaller groups after revealing to each other what they have learned and the many things going on. And with this, we get to see that the group of Hopper, Murray, and Joyce stay together as they are sent down into the Russian lab. At the same time, the other group is mainly kept together with Steve, Robin, Erica, and Dustin. And that, of course, means the last group is also together with the rest of the kids and with, well, Nancy and Jonathan. And at this point, Eleven has ripped a part of the Mind Flayer out of her, which has taken away her powers, and they have to go and deal with the Mind Flayer attacking them. And with this, they go on a few different strategies. Since they learn Eleven's powers aren't working, they eventually decide to go and play a distraction tactic where they're able to fix the car that they have, and because it was sabotaged by Billy, who is the only one that hasn't been absorbed into the Mind Flayer yet. And with this, we get to see as they are trying to distract the Mind Flayer, but are eventually foiled when the few that remained behind with 11 and try to get her out, but with it, they are seen by Billy, who still waits in the parking lot and goes to attack them. They call for help, and this time we get to have Steve and Robin go back to help them as Mike is able to call out to his girlfriend, and that is because at the same time they are infiltrating the base with this, and once they get to the keypad, they're supposed to remember one of the famous numbers. I don't know what the number was, but with it, they are giving the wrong number and don't know it, and Dustin's forced to sing a kind of embarrassing song over the radio so everyone hears him, so his girlfriend will give him the number he needs, and with it, they are able to go and begin to close the portal to the Upside Down. But with this, Hopper is trapped behind the machine and can't get out. And with this, Joyce is forced to close the portal, which leads to a massive explosion that seems to have killed Hopper. And this luckily was able to save everyone from being killed by the Mind Flayer, even though Eleven was able to at least give them some time by being able to break the control the Mind Flayer had over Billy temporarily, and he sacrificed himself to protect everyone. He does have a nice moment with Max, and then he does die, which was very tragic and a really epic way to end this all, with the Mind Flayer being defeated and them just barely being able to pull off a win. With this, they have seemingly lost many people, although we do get it revealed that Hopper is alive in, I believe, the trailer for season 4. The first tease, I wasn't even think a full trailer was just showing that he is alive and being kept in a Russian gulag, I believe, in most likely Siberia. And with it, there's also some other crazy things. There are some things that I don't fully love, which is why this is probably my second favorite season, with the relationship between Eleven and Mike being a little pulled on and them having a breakup and then eventually getting back together by the end. And although it wasn't fully necessary, I think it was still a decent storyline. And with the other parts, yeah, I really enjoyed this season. I think they did a really good job making it. And it was all extremely interesting to see. Another thing I did like is that they finally went in full in on the relationship between Hopper and Joyce. I think it was kind of obvious they were gonna go there, and I'm just glad they went and finished it off. But yeah, I really enjoyed Stranger Things. I am really excited to see what happens in the next season, which I think comes out next Friday, at least the first half. I'll be seeing the second half a little bit later on, and I'll be watching that right after I watch the first 2 episodes of Kenobi. Yeah, I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.